Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Airsoft Mechanics Podcast. This is episode 2 of season 2. We got a lot of guests here today, actually. We got Jacob Bell from Nashville Airsoft and Alan Sun from Umbrella Airsoft, or Umbrella Armories. So we got a lot of people here. So we're going to try to do this as best as possible.
All right, so which were we going to start with? The mask thing, or...
I'm up for starting with the mask thing.
Okay, so let me know if my mic cuts in and out because my internet's being bad right now. But basically, what has happened in the airsoft community recently, similar to the bills in California and New York, Massachusetts has followed suit and has kind of tried to incorporate their own bill restricting the use of airsoft guns. And the difference with the Massachusetts bill, mainly, is that it is not only restricting the appearance of the guns, where if you're not familiar, Bill SB 199 in California and a similar bill in New York require airsoft guns to have neon electrical tape wrapped around 3 different parts of the gun on top of the federally required orange tip in order to legally be kind of identified as an airsoft gun and not a real firearm or imitation firearm, however the legal terms are kind of designated in those states. In Massachusetts, however, they are not just doing that. They are actually redefining the legal term imitation firearm to include any realistic-looking paintball gun, all BB guns, all air guns, all pellet guns, all airsoft guns, and any realistic-looking toy gun. On top of this, they are not just changing the definition, they are adding penalties for, they're adding restrictions on the sale and use of this new definition of imitation firearm, and they are also adding a lot of penalties to violating these new restrictions of sale and use on imitation firearms. And on top of that, they're allowing law enforcement to confiscate anyone who is in possession of an item that falls under this new definition of an imitation firearm for no other reason than owning it and using it for something other than the one exception, which would be for film or a theatrical production. So in a nutshell, what this bill is doing, what these restrictions are that they're placing is that they're basically lumping together all those different types of replica firearms that I just previously named, and they are giving them a list of 3 exceptions. I'm trying to pull up my computer right now, and if it does not meet all 3 exceptions, it will be identified as an imitation firearm, and it is illegal to sell, transport, use, or own in the state of Massachusetts, according to this new bill. And the 3 exceptions are that, I'll read the whole thing. Imitation firearm, this is the new definition. Any air rifle or handgun, pellet gun or BB gun, or any device or object made of plastic, wood, metal, or any other material which substantially duplicates or can be reasonably perceived to be an actual firearm, rifle, shotgun, air rifle or handgun, pellet gun, or BB gun, unless such air rifle or handgun, pellet gun, BB gun, etc., they just repeat the same list, adheres to these 3 exceptions, and now it lists the 3 exceptions. And it's all 3, it's not one of the 3. 1, it is colored other than black, blue, silver, or aluminum, and 2, it is marked with a non-removable orange stripe, which is at least 1 inch in width and runs the entire length of the barrel on either side of the front end of the barrel. And 3, this is the most important one, because the 2 previous ones are visual. The 2 previous ones mean that all these guns must be colored entirely in a neon color, on top of having a neon orange stripe down the barrel on top of the neon orange tip. But the 3rd rule is that the exception must also have a barrel at least 1 inch in diameter that is completely closed for a distance of not less than 1/2 inch from the front end of its barrel, with the same material of which the imitation firearm is made. And then it goes on to say that antique firearms made before 1898 do not count as imitation firearms. So basically what this last kind of rule means is that unless these guns, even if they're brightly colored, even if they have the required tape on them, even if they're identified under this new law as not a real firearm or real weapon, as the actual term is in this mass general law that I'm quoting, the gun or replica firearm really must have a barrel at least 1 inch in diameter that has a completely closed off portion at least half an inch thick, if not more. Which, I mean, by definition, that means the gun cannot launch any type of projectile, which immediately makes any paintball gun, BB gun, pellet gun, air rifle, etc. illegal to own or use. And I say illegal to own or use because that is the actual bill. What I just read was only the new definition proposed. The bill itself is Section 131R of Mass Law to replace Section 131Q. And I won't keep going on about this because if you don't live in Massachusetts, the numbers don't mean anything to you. But basically, it's the actual law is that now things that are now defined as that new definition of imitation firearm. A, no person shall import, manufacture, sell, hold for sale, or distribute these within the state unless such a device is imported, manufactured, sold, held for sale, and distributed, 1, solely for transportation through the state to another state, or 2, solely for lawful use in a theatrical production, including motion picture, television, or stage production. Now, on top of that, a violation of A shall constitute an unfair or deceptive trade act, which is just another, and then it links you to another law, which would be the penalty for committing that crime. And then C, which is the third part of the actual new law. A law enforcement officer may confiscate any imitation firearm under the new definition from a person in possession thereof unless the person is possessing the firearm solely for interstate commerce, which means you're just traveling through Mass. Your destination was from Rhode Island to Connecticut and you had to go through Mass. Or 2, solely for, you have to provide proof that it's solely for lawful use in a theatrical production, motion picture, television, or stage production. That's the law, and that's the new definitions I read first. And kind of in a nutshell what this means is that for us airsofters, all airsoft guns in Massachusetts are now defined as imitation firearms because there's no possible way they can meet that third exception and still shoot BBs. And what this means is that they are now completely illegal to sell, transport, or use in Massachusetts unless for a theatrical production or movie. This bill is not law yet, so this is not true yet, but this is a proposed bill that has already made it to the stage of being voted on, whether it's going to be law or not in Massachusetts. And this is extremely serious because unlike California and New York, it's not just a new coloring of the weapons. And I say weapons because that's the legal term. It's, or rather, imitation firearm in this case. But it is like it's completely illegal to either own, transport, or use them. So it's not only will I have to buy my airsoft gun from Evike and it will come with tape on it, which actually isn't even the case unless you still live in California or New York now. But you can't even buy them in the first place. You can't own them. And it's also a clause, because of the law, it prohibits use, transportation, and ownership, and allows law enforcement to confiscate them unless you have proof you're using them for theater, basically, or a movie. There is no grandfathered in clause here because if I were to take my airsoft guns outside my house, they'd be confiscated. That's an illegal act under this new law, under this new bill, excuse me, if it becomes law. So this is one of the things that I've been trying to, I just realized that this bill was even being voted on, I think three or 4 days ago. And since then, I've been typing up a response to it and analyzing it and really looking into it to the best of my ability. And I currently have what is now 6 1/4 pages long, a letter that I wrote to my representative. I'm going to send it to my governor. I'm also going to send it to the legislator who actually proposed this law in the first place. And it's all over Facebook. It is on Airsoft Society forum. It's the newest article posted. I think someone was putting it on Reddit on the r/airsoft subforum. So it's out there to view. I'm going to make a whole video of it on my channel soon because this will literally determine whether I can airsoft or not anymore, or whether I live in Massachusetts when I get out of college. But yeah, so this is something that was kind of important in the airsoft community and kind of random too because it had already made it to the stage in the state where it was being voted on until I found out about it. And when I found out about it, one of my friends had actually, someone told him and he told me, and then I started telling all my friends on Facebook who are involved in Massachusetts and New England Airsoft, and from there it kind of branched out, and now everyone's talking about it. But with like the SB 199, we knew plenty of time in advance that like all the stages it was going through, we knew about it when it was just proposed, let alone when it was already being voted on. So that was kind of weird for me that I didn't find out about this till it was already at the final stage of being voted on. But yeah, that's about all I have to talk about it. I don't want to take up too much more time on this, but in a nutshell, this would make airsoft illegal in Massachusetts to either own or play. And if you want to find out more information on it, most airsoft groups and Facebook have at least one or two posts in them now about it. I'm making a YouTube video tomorrow, hopefully, about this. If not, it'll be up next week whenever time provides. Airsoft Society forum. If you go on the forum right now, the very first page that pops up is the article page, and the newest article is one that I wrote as a moderator on the forum. And it just basically it gives you a gist of the bill and then my entire 6-page response, which I am still in the final proofreading process before I email that to my representatives. But yeah, that's all I'll say about that because I don't want to take up any more time on it.
I absolutely hate it when states do this kind of stuff. I don't know. It's just, I think it's really silly. It's not going to solve issues that are the problem, in my opinion.
It's just ignorant people trying to act like they're getting stuff done.
Pretty much. I just think it's like some politician sits down and is like, I want to think of a way to make it appear as if I'm thinking of the children, when in reality I'm just pushing my agenda.
Yeah, at
Pretty much.
the same time, making those guns to look in a certain way, that's not going to help. There are people, there are a lot of people who has put, like that one guy who put real 12-gauge shotgun inside the casing.
It's a Nerf gun, right?
It was
a
water gun.
A water gun. That's what it was.
Yeah, so there was someone said that somebody else put a real 40mm launcher inside a Nerf gun. So that's not.
How do you get a 40mm launcher?
No, that's impressive.
There are people that have ways, in certain states that can get those, whatever. But the bottom line is that these laws will not protect anyone, but it will only, injure the what's the word I'm looking for? The business, the industry,
The law-abiding citizens.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with all the gun laws. It's not. I'm not going to get too off topic, but just real quick on that. By the end of the day, if there's a mass murderer using a gun for as their weapon of choice, it's going to be a good person with a gun who stops that. That's just how it is by the end of the day. So banning all guns doesn't matter. You're only removing a tool from law-abiding citizens. But the bad guys, the criminals, they don't care about laws. They'll still get guns illegally. Anyway, the laws in California here, the SB 199 and the law in Massachusetts they're proposing, it's the same story. When criminals can find a way to put actual firearm, to disguise it as, a water gun, a Nerf gun, whatever, the police officer on the street, they're not going to care about you pointing a Nerf gun at one point. At least right now, I'm pretty sure currently, if it's just a 5-year-old kid running around the street with a Nerf gun, officers might be fine with it. But it's going to get to one point that's so bad that some kid pointing a Nerf gun at the officer might just draw and shoot the kid. Just because these laws, they don't do anything. The proper thing to do is, don't let your kids running around the street with imitation firearm. That's an obvious one.
It's common sense.
All laws aside, that's a really dumb thing to do in the first place. They shouldn't even have to make a law that says you don't do
it should be common sense. All the major airsoft retailer has been saying the same thing. Hey, don't, if you're in public, make sure you're transporting your gun, whatever, make sure it's inside a gun case or gun bag, whatever. Don't grab your airsoft gun, air gun, paintball gun, whatever around the street. there's no point. What's the purpose of using an airsoft gun, holding an airsoft gun on the streets?
There's
Unless
absolutely
if you're
nothing.
if you're going to a convention, Comic-Con, whatever.
Like Comic-Con, yeah.
Yeah, that's the exception. But then in between, when you're transporting, we are not actually at the convention. The gun should, regardless, the gun should be inside a case or a bag. So the law really doesn't help anyone. But
As much as
I
I
don't-
help anyone.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far into like my responses to this because, like, as I said, my letter to my representatives was over 6 pages long, and I don't want to read the whole thing right now; it would take forever. But just like some of the topics that I did touch, I basically kind of examined the bill and the actual legal effects it would have on people in the state. From my analysis, what it came down to is that in the end, it not only doesn't affect anything because people who buy imitation firearms, which is what this law is affecting, for malicious purposes, even if they're now colored differently or under the mass law, because under mass law, this proposed one, I think it's law H3476, Bill H3476, you can still have an AR-15 shaped item. It just has to be colored yellow, for example, have 2 orange stripes down the barrel, and the barrel, the end of it, has to be blocked, like a solid piece of plastic for the orange tip on the end. If someone was actually buying that to cause harm, to use badly, or if they bought an airsoft pistol for malicious intent, like they bought it to portray it as a gun purposely and try to rob a store, for example, or kind of use it like threateningly towards a friend or someone. I guess you wouldn't use it towards a friend, but someone you didn't like, someone you had something against. This isn't going to change anything. If they're buying a gun for, I keep saying gun, if they're buying an imitation firearm for malicious intent, the next thing they're going to buy is a can of black spray paint, and now you're back at square one. So it hasn't fixed anything. So at least that group of people, it's not affecting anything. Now I would take the group of people who aren't buying it for malicious intent. They're buying it for recreational use, but they happen to use it wrongly. And when I say wrongly, for example, the 14-year-old is over his friend's house, and he ends up walking onto the street with an airsoft pistol when they're having like an airsoft war. And the neighbor comes out, and he just sees people, like teenagers, holding guns and shooting each other with guns. He's not going to care about the orange tip on the end. He's going to call the police. And when the police come, for whatever reason, the teenagers, their mental state is that they don't, they know that what they have in their hand is a toy, so they don't see it as a real threat, and the police officer doesn't know that, so he sees it as a threat. This is a situation where having like brightly colored ones could potentially change that. However, the reality that now, like Alan was even saying, we brought up the water gun example, having this law in place, like the reality of that, it's basically creating a false sense of security for the citizens in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that if they see something that looks, no matter how similar it looks to a gun, as long as it's brightly colored, it's not a real gun. Well, criminals catch on to that pretty quickly, because now they don't even have to buy real guns. They can buy, once that mentality takes place, and it happens 1, 2, or 3 times, where someone spray painted a Colt 1911 bright pink, brought it to a convenience store, and shot someone with it because he was able to walk right in. People assumed it was a toy gun. It doesn't have to happen often. It has to happen once, twice, 3 times. That's it. It's because this law is put in place. That's what allows it to happen. And now, once that starts happening, obviously trends will spread. Media sources today, they're biased towards one side or the other. You will never find an unbiased media source. So it's not easy. It was very easy, for other criminals or other people who weren't even criminals at that point in time, but they see what happens, like on a media report about a situation where someone walked into a store with a bright pink and yellow gun and ended up shooting somebody. Now they know they can do this too, and then it'll only have it happen a certain amount of times for us to realize that this law actually made people less safe, because now there's an extra avenue that was not there before for these problems to occur and take place.
Yeah,
and then
go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just saying, and then once that happens, now police officers are forced to treat even these brightly colored guns as if they're real guns. So now when your 14-year-old sons are outside playing with brightly colored guns now, they're going to be treated the same exact way. And in effect, it does nothing positive. except for hurt the industry, hurt the airsoft community, hurt X, Y, and Z. And that was basically the rest of my response, was just explaining all the aspects that it's going to hurt, and then explaining why it's important to not hurt them and to keep them alive. And then the last response I had, which I won't get into because it would, again, take too long, but it was a proposition for a different amendment, a different bill, a different law to put in place, which would give you this feeling of it's making people safer, it's keeping the kids out of harm's way, but it's not harming the airsoft industry or the paintball industry or et cetera, other groups that might be affected by Bill H3476.
I think the most asinine part of this bill, well, at least the thought process in it, is the fact that, like, if you have, like, your example where the kid crosses the street with an airsoft gun and they're having a little bit of an airsoft battle in their front yard, and a neighbor calls the police show up, kid gets shot, what has happened? The person who was being stupid was the one that got punished, not the neighbor. The neighbor didn't get shot. The neighbor didn't get harmed. Police officer, well, he has to live with the fact that he shot a kid. He's not physically harmed. He's okay. The only person that was harmed was the kid that committed the offense. So if you're going to punish the entire airsoft community and paintball community because one guy broke a law, or because when somebody breaks a law it only affects them, you're affecting the entire community with a single person's decision. So that's one of the other reasons why it doesn't make sense, because you're punishing everybody for only one person really getting punished.
Yeah. That's the sad reality of it.
I'm curious as to how far the whole, like, it has to be used in filming thing goes, because what if everybody just runs GoPros?
See, that's what I thought initially, and I thought as long as we're playing airsoft games and one person has a GoPro or a contour, we're now making videos. So that was my initial, like, if this goes down, I am fighting this with my last breath.
Well, everyone's buying a GoPro.
Contour. Yeah.
You might have
fatalities for the win.
You might have to have a filming license.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that because it's so strict around it, and was the actual line, here it is, solely for subsequent transportation or solely for lawful use in a theatrical production, including motion picture, television, or stage production. Well, obviously, with GoPros, it wouldn't be counted as theatrical production or stage production or television, but it could technically be a motion picture kind of project, I guess. But the thing is that because it's just solely for lawful use in a motion picture would be like the part that we're talking about. And there's the legalities behind lawful use in motion picture. I'm sure if this was the true intent of the bill and they weren't just trying to spew random things out there and didn't realize that the wording having the barrel closed for a half inch on the end would immediately make any projectile launching toy illegal, because it's impossible for them to launch projectiles with a closed barrel, especially where he gave specific measurements for half an inch thick minimum and the same material as the gun's made out of itself, which was listed before as either plastic, metal, or wood. So, I mean, like, the thought process here is that you can't shoot through this. I'm pretty sure they would amend the law immediately with that kind of loophole of as long as one person has a contour or a GoPro at the game, it's still legal. Because then the place hosting the games, for example, could only host a game if there were cameras present and if they were constantly producing videos of every single match to prove that it was a motion picture, for example, or something like that. It would just be a very, very annoying set of loopholes to kind of jump through that it shouldn't even be there, because the law itself is really dumb.
I agree. I think stuff like this is just completely asinine, because it just shows the how uninformed politicians and the general community is about stuff, and how terrified, nearly without reason, the community is about this kind of stuff. I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff going on recently, like, shootings and mass shootings and robbery, and there's just all kinds of violent crime going around, and it's bad. I agree, but I don't think, taking away the rights of airsofters to play airsoft is going to fix the issue. Really what this is doing is it's just pushing closer to an all-out gun ban in general. You got to take baby steps.
That's my main worry about it right now, is that's why my first part of the response to them was basically saying, like, in all reality, I like analyze the situation and went into a different angle, so they basically try to point out, in all reality, this does nothing to fix any sort of problem that again, in reality, currently doesn't even exist. It's kind of just this problem of, oh, the boy in Cleveland was shot in 2014. This is going to happen all the time now, every time. It's not happening all the time. The fact that that story was so popular is because it was so out there. It was so different. It's not a popular occurrence. Now, creating a law to fix a problem that doesn't exist is only going to create more problems. It's almost the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That doesn't exactly translate here. However, it's the same sort of idea, is where people are kind of forming themselves that this situation is a problem when it really hasn't shown to be a problem. So now they're going to try and fix it. They don't think about the repercussions, of the changes they're making. And in this case, it would ban all airsoft guns, realistic-looking paintball guns, all BB guns, all pellet guns, all air guns, all imitation firearms or toys that are made to look like firearms, etc. And I don't know if that was their initial intent with it, but because of the wording, I can only assume that it was. And if so, I have absolutely no idea what sane reasoning they had behind it, because as I tried to analyze decently well in this response without taking too much time, so it just being ignored, it doesn't actually fix anything at all, and it only hurts a lot of the mass community and a lot of the industry and local small businesses that solely sell or host airsoft games or paintball games that would effectively be illegal businesses once this law passes or this bill passes.
Yeah. People, just to kind of, I guess this would be a round out for this topic, but for people that are terrified this is going to happen in their state, which, you have all right to be terrified of this. I mean, it's happening in a lot of places more often. New York, California, now Massachusetts. Those are liberal states, but it can happen. So how do you avoid this? How do you avoid this becoming an issue in your state? Don't be the issue, I guess you could say. When you transport your airsoft gun, put it in a carry bag, a secure weapon carry bag, and put it in your trunk when you have it in your vehicle. And what I do personally, I know this isn't the law, but what I do personally is I put orange tips on all of my guns when I transport them. So just in case I get pulled over and an officer asks me if I have anything in the back, and he finds something, he's less terrified of it, at least a little bit. I just put the orange tips on it just for a little bit more security there, I guess. And don't be stupid. Don't be shooting in your front yard. And if you're in a backyard, make sure you know what you're shooting towards and etc. in that regard. Also, what I did is I went around and talked to a couple of my neighbors, especially the guy behind me, and they were very understanding. And all my neighbors said, as long as I don't hurt their property, they're 100% fine. So I'm not hurting their property. I stay within my property, and all is well. So just take precautions and basically don't become a statistic.
Yep. It's the best way to recap it. I mean, as long as you're not creating the problems, they're going to be in the news less, and they're going to be political points of interest less.
Right. I mean, if you hate these politicians, which, I don't like a lot of them, don't fuel them. That's a good, I'd say that's a pretty good train of thought.
All right, well, if you want to segue into the next topic, Ryan, we've been kind of beating a dead horse on this one, I guess, talking about it for a while.
Alrighty, this one's an interesting one. So this is
now that Alan's here.
Yes, now that Alan's son is here. So the next topic, we're doing this whole podcast a little bit differently because there's a lot of new stuff going on that we want to talk about, and there's 4 of us, so we're gonna have a little bit of fun. Anyway, Umbrella is collaborating with evike.com, and Umbrella built a gun called the EMG. I think it's probably got some other stuff to it.
EMG is one of Evike's branding thing. Is kind of like their metrics, but they're doing the EMG thing as what's the word I'm looking for?
It's like a tier system, right?
No. EMG is the same as metrics, but it's for stuff that are of
promotional.
No, better quality stuff.
Oh,
it's
okay.
like E-Bike's own manufacturing group or whatever.
It stands for E-Bike Manufacturing Group.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Neat.
It's supposed to be a higher quality matrix.
All right.
Except not Matrix.
No, it's not Matrix, but it's the idea is that it's an E-Bike brand, but they don't manufacture anything themselves. They're just gathering parts, putting them together, and selling them under the EMG title, as opposed to doing that, selling it under the Matrix title.
Yeah.
So Umbrella has made this gun, and it is a very expensive gun if you know what I'm talking about. It's like $1,400. But, and I know a lot of people don't like the $1,400 price tag, but our very own Ryan Fisher compiled the entire parts list and came to the conclusion that it is very close to $1,400, and that there's barely any room there for labor, to be honest, compared to other builds that a lot of other companies do. So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So we initially we started the OCAW gun line, which is our own gun line that we pretty much sell complete guns. We do the whole gearbox. All you do is pick your own rail, you pick your own stock. So the reason is we don't want people to be spending $1,000 or $1,500 on a gun, but it doesn't have the rail or the stock that they want. So we allow the customer to pick their own external parts. The receiver, of course, is our OCW receiver, which is actually OEM'd by FFC. So we didn't cheap out on the gun, and for the one that we built for Evike, if you add up all the parts that's included, the retail pricing for the parts alone is around $1,400 for everything that's included in the package, and that does not include you to put the time and the cost for you to put everything together. And we did everything. We have a Chimera MOSFET in there with RHOP, AOE correction, and so on. So if that's something that you want, then you can just buy it, because by the end of the day, you're saving yourself the time of putting the whole thing together, and you don't have to worry about if parts fail, it's under warranty. You buy the gun from Evike, anything goes wrong, you can contact us directly. You don't have to go through Evike. So that's the whole idea behind the gun. And a lot of people are saying that $1,400 is steep. Yes, it is definitely steep. It's not for someone who's just a beginner getting into airsoft. But at the same time, if you think about this, that PTW, system PTW, even nowadays, a lot of people still think that they're the god tier rifle per se. For the system that they use, yeah, it's really nice. They're pretty reliable. However, the downside is they're not designed to be played, but they're more for training. Inside their gearbox, they use the MOSFET, the ECU setting, actually has a ridiculous amount of active braking. And the most common issue with PTW is that their motors overheat. And because by the end of the day, they're designed for training. They're not designed for people doing mid cap dumps, high cap dumps, playing with the gun the whole day. For a PTW, you can, if you shoot on semi for a max version PTW, on semi you pull the trigger 100 times rapidly, that motor will burn your hand. That's a guarantee for a stock PTW. And compared between the two, currently with all the upgrade parts available in the market, standard AEG will outperform a PTW for their price tag. For if you're spending the same amount of money, standard AEG will always outperform PTW.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on the YouTube video that Evike posted of it. It's like a 2-minute, maybe 3-minute video. It's just kind of a short overview of the gun, which gives you a link to their website page that talks about the gun into more detail. But anyway, like everybody in the comments was like, "Oh, this gun's crazy expensive, like ridiculously expensive." So Ryan, primarily Ryan, and more Ryan and less of I, but Ryan hopped on it and made a big post in the YouTube comment section, and then proceeded to go to Facebook from there on Airsoft Tech and Q&A, and he talked about what you're actually getting in the gun versus the price tag versus the time you're gonna have to do it to make your own gun versus how much money you're gonna spend in the long run for airsoft to begin with. So basically, he was just defending Evike and Umbrella Armories in that YouTube video, and I made just a quick comment saying that I support it because it makes sense. I mean, sure, $1,400 is a steep price tag, but compared to what you're getting, it's worth it because there really isn't a whole lot of wiggle room there for work, and you're getting a really professionally tuned gun and a warranty, and just I don't know, it's just it's a well-built gun, but like everybody said, it's expensive, but you get what you pay for when you really do buy this thing.
Yeah, that was my biggest problem with it. Is I'm obviously not affiliated with Umbrella Armories or E-Like in any way, but when I saw the video, obviously I knew the gun was coming out because I talked to Alan pretty much daily. But when I saw the E-Like video and just people, it was like 1 or 2 positive comments, and then the preceding 20 before that were like negative comments and like specifically shitting on how the gun, not just because it was so priced, it was so overpriced, or that it was their E-Like was exaggerating the price on this, gaining a huge profit, or that they were kind of unfairly pricing this, getting a lot of money off of it, ripping people off. And then there were comments directed at Umbrella saying that Umbrella was doing all these things and more, that Umbrella's crap, that Umbrella's this, that. And it was like baseless attacks basically on both companies. And the first thing I wanted to point out is that from my understanding, this isn't even Umbrella's gun. This is actually the Tier 3 out of the EMG line E-Like is selling. So this is all E-Like's work, but as they have a Tier 1, which is like the basic custom gun. They have a Tier 2, which is a little more, and those involve internals and externals respectively. I don't know which one's which.
Tier 2 includes upgrading mortar barrel blocking hubba.
Okay. Is Tier 1 just like externals for the most part?
Yeah, Tier 1 is external. Tier 2 you do the internals, but Tier 2 does not get to the gearbox. Tier 3 gets into the gearbox.
Okay, that makes sense.
Alan, do you guys only work on Tier 3, or do you work on Tier 3 and Tier 2?
Right now, that's the only gun that we did for E-Like.
Alright.
Yeah. That's exactly the point I was trying to get at, is that this just happens to be the Tier 3 of E-Like's line. And because E-Like wanted to do so many more custom parts to the internals, and they don't have, I think they have Ryan over there working for them, but unless they wanted to make Ryan build every single gun, he's not even a tech at E-Like, he just works at E-Like.
Also, real quick,
had to outsource it.
By Ryan, he means Valley River Arms.
Oh, sorry, yeah, we have 2 Ryans. I don't mean the other Ryan. I meant another YouTuber, another tech on airsoft mechanics, who's very knowledgeable. I used to talk to him a lot before he kind of dropped the airsoft scene. For the most, he still does it, but he's not nearly as into the techie side as he used to be.
He's Asian college now.
Yeah. But so what they did is, this is E-Like's gun. It had nothing to do with Umbrella Armories. They don't have the resources to build it as custom internally as they wanted to, so they went to Umbrella Armories and had them build the gun. So that was my biggest problem, is that people were attacking Umbrella Armories for like the gun's pricing, for example. Well, they had nothing to do with that. All they did was,
regardless, by the end of the day, the pricing that E-Like has on there is still perfectly
it's right,
fine.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That was the post that I ended up making, because I kind of got pissed off that people were just doing this. So the first part of the post was establishing that like Umbrella they couldn't have overpriced this. They were just asked to build it E-Like, and they did. And then secondly, I went and I added up all the parts that were just listed, and I mean only the parts that E-Like chose to list on the actual product page that came with it. So this doesn't include some of the smaller internals, some of the smaller externals, some of the little pieces that you actually need for the gun to be built together and functioning. And all the prices of the products that E-Like listed, like literally right there for you on the product page of this EMG rifle, added up to be exactly $1,300. It was like $5 or $6 less, but that was also, I did all retail prices of where I could find the products, and prices fluctuate very slightly depending on where you buy them from. So give or take, it was between $1,290 to like somewhere in the ballpark of that. It was very close to $1,300. And that being said, that doesn't include all the tech work that Umbrella did. That doesn't include, so basically labor in that sense, all the modifications they had to do. It doesn't include the 1-year warranty you get, which isn't through E-Like at all, so it's not going to be.
Yes, RHOP.
It's completely separate through Umbrella. It doesn't include some of the modifications like the RHOP tuning that was done that you can't just buy a part and put in yourself. So there were all these extra things on top of that now fit into only $100 worth of bonus cash on this.
RHOP is not a drop-in unit?
No, it's not.
Oh my god.
It'd be really weird to find that out.
You are out of your mind.
Holy crap, it's not drop-in?
I always thought it was, and I tried to do it myself, and I had to actually work on it.
I just sent mine to Alan.
That works.
I dropped it in a box and it was sent back to me a week later. That means drop in, right?
BTC Fest. BTC.
Yeah, BTC in a nutshell.
Oh man, BDC.
But yeah, so like the worst part about this is that not just they were attacking Umbrella for no reason, they proved to themselves they did zero research into the price of the gun, because every single person that said this is ridiculously overpriced, I literally went on and added all the pieces up. It's like first grade edition. All you need to do is find actually search the pieces. The list is given for you. Copy paste the list into Google, and you can find a price for every single piece. Most of them are even on eBay, so you have to leave the stupid website you're already on, and it comes out to be just under $1,300.
Well, God forbid somebody on the internet thinks for themselves and does something like that.
Oh, I know.
And some kid claimed that his combat machine.
Oh yes.
That was the funniest
Upgrades,
part.
including upgrades, his combat machine, the total cost, including upgrades, is only $300, and he claimed you outperformed the gun.
That was the best part.
I know. Wait. Wasn't it along the lines of like my G&G combat machine was better because it just shot harder?
Let me find it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a comment on the e-bike video.
Quote, my upgraded CM combat machine costs a total of $300 and will perform better than this just because of the FPS. End quote.
I bet he dropped like a HPA system in it.
My young friend, just because it says 500 FPS on the box does not mean that it is 500 FPS.
No, that's probably with like point 12. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. We used to buy the budget guns, and they would chrono with .12s and put that reading on it. It's like, new upgraded 475 FPS, Super Max, Crossman G3.
I mean, what people don't seem to understand is, like, this is just about as good as airsoft guns can get. Like, you're hard-pressed to make an airsoft gun that, is more highly upgraded than something like this. Like, the only things I could say that could, you could possibly replace, maybe you could get, like, a nicer gearbox shell than a Lone X, Just, it's small stuff that it's kind of negligible at that point. It takes, like, that's kind of what I've been doing lately with the builds that I do. Like, I tend to build pretty nice guns, and so I'll just kind of, like, they'll get to that price point. I'm just patient. But in the end, though, you still spend about the same amount of money. That's what people don't seem to get.
Like,
yeah, and we give you warranty.
Yeah, and you get a warranty with that.
Which,
So, yeah,
I don't think you actually have, like, a legitimate 1-year warranty on a local company that is going to not only like be able to uphold it, but like actually fix your gun. Like, for example, the really cheap Echo One warranties, or
what's it called?
Ones, like
what's
those,
it called? High Point.
Like, yeah.
High Point. The real company, the real firearm company, High Point. Their handguns are like $200 a piece, made out of complete pot metal, but they give you a lifetime warranty.
So as long as it breaks, if it explodes in your face while you're shooting it, you can send it in and get a new one.
You don't have to send it in if you're dead.
I think that was the idea.
That's where they get you.
So I know you were talking about like high class professional tech companies that do great work, and Oppenheimer came to mind.
Yeah.
Satire, by the way.
It's Oppenheimer Airsoft.
Which brings us to our next topic.
I only remember them from whenever Retro Arms first came out, because I'm pretty sure they were one of the first companies to test some Retro Arms products. And they built a DSG that seemed alright then, and then now...
Hold on. On the whole Retron thing, I don't understand why people buy Retron gearbox and Siege Tech gear set just to put together a gun that shoots 350 FPS at 20 rounds per second.
Yeah, that makes no sense to me.
That's literally the gun that's in front of me right now, except it's got a cradle gearbox.
Shut up, you piece of shit. You're wasting. Like, I could so much better use that gearbox.
Are you mad?
Yeah, a little bit.
Are you using bearings or bushings?
If I end up getting my second...
I'm using bearings and then one bushing under the spur.
You're retarded.
Modified ceramics, baby.
You're retarded.
Ceramics for life.
Modified ceramics are weak.
You know what?
Yeah,
They
but this is a
work
weak
with me.
build.
This is a rubber boy build, Alan.
I haven't broken
Right.
on my 10 to 1 170 DSG yet, and I don't usually.
Because you haven't pushed them hard enough.
Yeah, you know, I'm not gonna push them even further, so they work for me.
What was
'Cause
the
Tom
test
won't
down?
send 'em
Like,
anymore.
hold down the trigger for a minute.
Explosions.
Yeah, I mean, I have my personal gun that has a 20 to 1 DSG with a Japanese bearing, shooting like 400 FPS at 5 RPS, very, very borderline PME when you're shooting BBs out of it. At EVICon, like, I don't know, I think I probably shot through over 5,000 rounds easily within the first hour. And it was fine. Still alive.
Now, are the Japanese bearings the ridiculously expensive ones, or are those different?
Those were the ones from Boca Bearing.
They are,
yeah.
The Japanese bearing are only, the retail pricing is only like $6 a pop. So
Oh, it's not that bad.
$36 per set.
The fancy ones from Boca Bearing were $10 a pop.
I still want
That's
to
what
try
I'm
those.
Well, we're waiting for Corey Askew to put MS-210 to it, and he said he will.
Yeah, I remember that.
If he can do
conversation,
it.
Actually, you basically told him until he agreed to
Yep.
put an MS-210 spring in it.
He's a
And,
little.
hopefully he will not lose his nuts like last time.
Yes.
He almost lost his nuts.
Ryan, have you seen the video?
No, I haven't seen.
Oh,
the
okay,
video.
there's this great video of Corey. I think Jacob and I dared him
I was
to.
gonna do it first, but he did it because I proposed the idea.
Anyway, we were like, hey Corey, try to put in a 210 spring into a gearbox shell with a spring guide spacer from Siege Deck. So he made like a 10-minute video of him doing it.
It
And
was
like,
like 20 minutes.
he was like leaning into it with his groin to get it in there.
Oh no!
I was praying for his nuts.
Hold on, I think I can
What
find.
if his hands-
I'll try and find the link somewhere. I think I can find it.
Such
Wait,
a
was
great
he like
video.
holding it with his hand and then using like his like waist to like further push it in? 'Cause
Not even his
Just
waist,
putting his whole
literally
body
his
into
groin.
yeah, what if his hand slipped? Holy shit!
He's not having kids.
God.
Damn, sorry, Corey. I'm glad
I
you're
have a
still
picture
here.
of it somewhere. I just took a picture and like made little like emoji eyes next to his belly button.
Fruity drink.
Yes, pretty drink.
Inside joke.
Fruity drink.
I can't find the video.
I do have, as long as I get, slightly off topic, like jumping backward, but as long as I get, oh, is that the video? No, that was not the video. Yeah, that's funny. That's
No,
funny.
he had. It's on his YouTube channel, but it's on private.
Oh,
He's like
okay.
shirtless the whole time.
I'll find it. I'm his friend.
Nipples.
Or subscriber, whatever.
Nipples.
What was I going to say? Oh, as long as the retro arms thing does work, and I actually do get that shell I was promised, I do have a double receiver set up for my DSG.
So,
where
basically, are we going to cover Retron first, or are we going to cover?
I'm not sure.
First?
We have two different directions we can take. What do you guys want to talk about?
So for the schedule, we had Oppenheimer to talk about next.
Yeah, do you want to just do that then? Or would you rather talk about RA first, like the gearboxes, and then segue into Oppenheimer?
Flopperheimer.
Flopperheimer. Alright, we'll start with them. Who wants to open it up then?
So
I don't know if we should let Alan do it.
I think I think there's a guide. You can just click. You can find the thread on Q&A. And
Yeah.
Kind of.
I'm gonna bring it up.
Do that.
I'm bringing it up.
Basically, what happened was
Yeah.
somebody posted a gun for sale for like $700, and this was the used gun. Like, this is the gun they had already bought. And basically, they were saying like it was this super nice gun built by Oppenheimer, and they bought it for $900.
No. They spend $900 on the including on
Oh,
the
yeah.
internal work.
Yeah.
That does not include the gun itself.
I apologize.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what it was.
So I think the way, so I'm looking at it right now.
132 comments.
Yeah, damn, it's a lot. There's a post on Airsoft Hacking Q&A, which if you don't know what that group is, it's a
Join. Get cancer.
join it right now. It's a lot of good information in there. Ryan,
that was
Jacob,
too.
and I admin that group. But basically, the post was somebody has a gun that we previously sent to Oppenheimer to get upgraded. It was upgraded. He bought it back. He used it since then. He loved it. Performed great. Now he wants to sell it. The problem is that he didn't know what to price it as because Oppenheimer has a non-disclosure agreement with every single customer they have where they work on a gun.
Keep in
which
mind, this is not
basically
legally
means-
binding.
Yeah, but basically what it means is that if you agree to it with them, you cannot open your gearbox and talk about it and like say the parts inside, which directly translates to how much money they would have charged you unless you bought all the parts yourself and told them what to install, which in this case they didn't. That's the problem that came up. So basically what this guy did is he had bought a Honey Badger, brand new, himself, So that money was already spent. And he sent the Honey Badger to Oppenheimer to just be turned into a nicer performing gun. There weren't many specs listed from what I can tell from the post that was given. And basically Oppenheimer charged him $900 for parts and labor on this new upgraded gun and then gave it back. And had him agree to an NDA, or a non-disclosure agreement. Like, you can't talk about it, you can't open it up, you can't say what parts we used, you can't take pictures of it and show everyone what we did, yada, 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 all that. So now this guy wants to turn around and sell it, and he's just pricing it arbitrarily at $700, and he even says himself, because he doesn't know how to price it. It doesn't make any sense to him. So actually, this guy, Tony Johnson, is actually the one pricing it, I think. But this guy posted it in Airsoft Tech Q&A. It's not him, it was someone saw the ad, and was just confused by it, and was like asking us what we thought of it. And now it has like 132 comments on it. Just everyone going glorious about it. It was so much fun to read through. But
it was pretty funny.
Basically, it was just like asking, why did Oppenheimer charge $900 for parts and labor, and then prevent the user from opening the gun and talking about what parts were actually put in place? It made no sense at all. Normally, if you're charging someone that much, like I have my teching business is not Umbrella Armory, it's not an established business. I do it on my own free time for customers who contact me, and I charge relatively high prices as like a sole tech. I think I charge more than Ryan does, and I'm not necessarily any better than Ryan. That's just because I don't have a lot of time at all. So when I do a build, I have to put things aside to work on it. So I tend to charge more because it's just harder for me to do that. And my highest labor that I charge, I don't charge by the hour labor. That's dumb. I charge by project. And if you want me to build you a from the ground up DSG, I will charge you about $200. And that is the highest just flat rate charge that I have, that I offer.
Jesus,
so if
you charge more than us.
Yeah,
I know I do. That's what I'm
double.
saying. Like, I open with that. Like, I'm expensive. So I'm using myself as an example here. So if you apply that,
I think we should start doing a price match, and we should increase our
price guarantee, 500% increase in Umbrella Armory's teching.
But you know the funny part is, we'd still beat Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at is that, like, if you use my price, which is clearly like the most expensive price, I just don't have the time to tech. So when I do, it's expensive for people. Now that means that if they charge the exact same labor I charge for a full DSG build from scratch, which is not what they built, so it even would have been less than this. That means they charge the user $700 worth of parts, and then refuse to tell the user what parts they actually put in, and force the user to agree that he wouldn't open the gun up, look at it, and tell people what parts were put in. And that's where the post comes in. That's just super sketchy in the airsoft industry to do. It makes no sense at all.
First, like, think...
Hold on, real quick, if you want to, because you know who deleted his post, but there is a screenshot that was posted that has what he said. So,
oh, I haven't seen the screenshot, because I do know he deleted his comments.
I will send it to you.
Alright.
I mean, it's just, the NDA doesn't make any sense, though, because everybody in the airsoft community already knows there's no, like, secret parts or anything, or secret services that anybody can possibly do that would warrant a non-disclosure agreement. That's why it's so ridiculous.
See, Ryan and I were talking about this before we started here, and we were talking about how, like, you know, airsoft teching is a pretty tight-knit community compared to every other community in the world. Say, like, stock car racing, that's a massive community compared to airsoft. There could be things in that community that are very, you know, secretive, and people don't want to, you know, let people see about because of fear of competition. But in airsoft, like, what? Okay, for a non-disclosure agreement to work in airsoft, Oppenheimer would have to have their own CNC shop and all kinds of other stuff set up to allocate resources, time, and money to do something like this, to make the NDA even supposedly effective at all. And furthermore, if there is an NDA there, all the parts are on the inside pretty much, because how do you have a non-disclosure agreement on the outside of a gun? So they must have spent $700 on internals alone, and time and money. Like, it doesn't add up. It's technically possible, but it's not economically feasible or fiscally feasible. It just doesn't make sense.
Jacob. But yeah, that was the thing that I was gonna just segue into too. And Ryan basically just stole the words out of my mouth. Is that it's technically not impossible to have $700 worth of internals, but having that much worth of internals, like, there's only so many parts you can possibly have in this gun that would work that would add up to $700. So it would go without saying what some of them are, and it would be expected what some of them are. So it'd be no secret and no reason for an NDA, because there's nothing different than if I were to build a gun for someone, or if Umbrella Armories were to build a gun for someone, and they were provided all these parts to put in. It would end up being the same thing. So it literally makes no sense unless they had their own.
Actually, just I believe Matt is the owner of Oppenheimer.
Yes.
However, according to him, they did some R&D stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
With Ares. However, by the end of the day, when the actual thing of what they've done to the gun came out, there was nothing that's even close to R&D's. There's no how should I put it? There's no R&D for Ares. By the end of the day, it was just putting all the upgrade parts that's readily available in the market in the gun, and that was it. And I'm just gonna jump in because I realized one thing. I just remember why I decided to chew him out is because I made a comment in that post saying "Oh, they use Tamiya" as a joke, but for anyone who actually does tagging or anyone who knows a little bit about electrical stuff, resistance and whatnot, Ding's connector has lower resistance than Tamiya. That's a universal known fact. Yeah, that's not something I'm making this up or But so I said that because I've seen guns that were built by Oppenheimer, and every time when I see them, they all have Tamiya. So that, for me personally speaking, that is a red flag for a tagging company to insist on using Tamiya instead of converting to Dings or other connectors as lower resistance. And should I just say his name, or should I just say his name?
This is a completely everything goes in this podcast. I don't edit anything out, and I honestly don't care unless somebody gets their pants in a knot. So go ahead.
Unless something's really bad, it's probably.
Well, I mean, I have a screenshot. I'm not lying, so I'm just saying it. Garrett from Oppenheimer called me out, saying that I did some personal insults to him and to the company and whatnot, and he also said that, quote, any and all slander will be met with a cease and desist, end quote. And that was towards me. So at that point, I'm like, why are you going to cease and desist my First Amendment rights? And like I said, all these things are screenshot, so we got evidence. But so we kept on digging, we kept on pushing him, and said, hey, what's up with it? He ended up leaving the group, but Matt, the owner of Oppenheimer, actually replied saying oh, I'm sorry, Alan, I apologize for his behavior, blah blah blah. I told him, I forgot in the message or in one of the comments, but I told him it's fine, but since the NDA is no longer a thing, could he, tell us what was done to the gun for $900? And again, the $900 does not include the cost or the price of the gun itself. That's strictly towards labor and upgrade parts. So
yeah, and I mean,
it's a massive amount for $900. And even with us, we just quoted a guy for a complete build using a GMP receiver, and it's a complete build from the outside to the inside. It came out to be around $1,000, and
that would have included all the externals too, right? That obviously weren't included.
That $1,000 does include the externals.
They pre-bought the gun and sent it in.
Yeah, the one we just quoted, that $1,000 gun does include the cost of the external, and we just quoting a different guy nowadays for a DSG build, just 20-1 DSG, 400 FPS setup, and total came out to be right below $500, and siege tag kind of stuff. So we're not shipping out anything. Anyway, so Matt came in, and who can find that reply? I'm trying to find Matt's reply.
Matt. I'm looking right now. Some comments were deleted, so I don't know if he got deleted or not. I don't know who deleted them. Oh, Matt Benil?
No, Matt Chubb.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about.
Where did he post? Because I remember seeing him posting the internals up there.
Oh, he made a reply.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know if that was deleted or not. No, I remember seeing that too. It was in the comments of the OP that started the whole Oppenheimer thread, stupid back and forth thing.
Let me find it because I
He's-
remember seeing the list.
He's very towards the bottom.
Yeah, I'm towards the bottom too.
His reply was January 7th at 7 p.m. On mine. Well, yours is different.
Well,
so
I
never mind.
think he might have deleted it because I don't see it.
I see it right here.
No, the comment when he listed out
When you
all the
listed
work
the
that was done.
parts,
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it right here.
someone posted. Read it then. We're just looking for it.
Quote unquote, as for the parts list, Siege Tech with the magnetic pickup installed for modified gears, modified bore up, compression components, milling of the gearbox shell to accommodate new bushings, modified hop up unit, flat hop rubber with modified gray, and some non-milling, just fine tuning piston work, shimming the barrel, etc. Most of the costs come from having parts milled locally at a machine shop. Hope this helps.
Alright,
End quote.
I mean,
So,
to be
just to
completely
trans-
blunt, oh, here, go on.
just to translate that means $900 was spent on Siege Tech gear set with magnet because the Ares,
Using the
they're,
magnet system and
yeah.
not a cutoff system.
yeah, they use a magnet sensor.
That was probably the toughest
Tax-
thing to do.
Well, I mean, people have done it. It's not
Not
the
really.
first
You
time.
just need to
and-
glue magnets inside the little
Yeah.
slot.
Well, yeah, but like I'm
Yeah.
saying that's the toughest thing they did to the gun.
Yeah.
Sure. And so Siege Tech with a magnet, modified bore kit, modify as in the brand modify, not modifying. So they use a modified brand bore kit. They had to mill the gearbox shell to accommodate new bushings. Now I don't understand why they need to do that.
Unless
Unless
you're
it was
using
like a
9 mil.
6mm gearbox shell, but if it's VFC, no, it's not VFC.
Don't Ares gearboxes already have 8mm?
Yeah.
They have 8mm, so that's
Yeah.
why I
Did
don't
they
understand.
replace the shell and then mill it out to accept the
No,
old bushing?
they did not.
No, they use
No.
an Ares gearbox shell.
Oh,
Yeah, they're still using the
Okay.
Ares MOSFET unit, whatever it's called.
The whole argument aside, what is the point in spending that much money on an Ares
if it's
gearbox
Ares
shell?
gearbox shell, it's just gonna crack.
Yeah, okay. So his Siege Tech modified bore-up kit, whatever milling was needed to fit in new bushings. I don't understand that.
Well, maybe.
Flat hop, not even R hop, just flat hop, not even ER hop, just flat hop. Those things alone, plus labor, somehow costed the guy $900.
Maybe, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here with the bushings part. You know how in JG gearbox shells, and I haven't looked at an Ares one in a long time, but you know how sometimes
They're
the
really
flanges are really tight? Maybe they milled that down.
Oh, you mean
Yeah.
that could be it, but regardless,
I
that's
think
still
it's
like
pretty
what?
unlikely.
That's still
Okay,
like
well,
what?
let's
$600-700.
assume that was it. Yeah. Oh, let's assume that was it. So siege techs are 125, right?
Yeah.
The magnets don't cost that much. It's more just time to modify them and glue them in place. Milling the gearbox shell out, if they don't have a CNC themselves or a lathe, they would have had to outsource that. So
The bore-up kit is roughly $55.
55. So you have 175 in parts, plus having an outside company do CNC work. I don't know what that costs.
You don't need CNC for that. You just a mill. And you just do.
Or true, a mill. You're not gonna actually. I don't know why I said CNC.
Actually, you can use a couple $100 drill press.
Yeah,
and,
right.
And you have the manual mill platform.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's assume, because this would cost more than it would have cost to outsource, that they bought their own drill press for like a cheap small one for maybe like $250 and use that themselves, because it wouldn't cost more than that to outsource a job if you can buy it yourself and do it yourself. So let's say it was $250 plus $175. That's roughly $425. What other parts were in there other than the gears and the what was $50? You said
They didn't modify hop-up rubber, and that's about it, it seems.
Modified? No, it's not modified. It's modified.
Oh,
yeah, like
wait.
modified.
They say flat hop rubber from Modify Gray.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
don't need to
the
cut that. That's already flat.
Modify has
Right,
some
right.
hop soft
Yeah.
hop-up bucking that they sell for like $10.
Yeah.
That's probably what they installed. So what's that? 100? What did I say before? 175 plus 50. No, 125 plus 50 is 175 plus 10 is so plus 250. So what's that? Like 435 in parts and the mill labor. And that means they would have charged $450 in their own personal labor, unless we're missing parts from the parts list. Which is more than twice of what I charge for a DSG build, which is more than what you guys charge.
And that's a ground-up DSG build.
Yeah.
And that's like if you give me no parts and I have to modify everything, I'll make you buy the parts, but I'll do everything for you and give it to you working for like 200 flat.
And their excuse for Tamiya is something that I don't understand. Their excuse is
yes, they said with a warranty with the MOSFET they use, they can't convert the connectors, which makes no sense because I don't know of a brand that supplies airsoft compatible MOSFETs that requires that.
Because if I remember correctly, that if you have a higher resistance in the circuit,
it'd be worse for the MOSFET.
That means the temperature for the whole circuit will be higher.
Right.
So that will actually, like you said, it will be worse for the MOSFET itself. So
I mean, their only excuse to use there would be that, like, maybe Aries, in order for Aries to, cover the MOSFET, they must not touch the electrical system. But they've touched the entire gun and modified everything else. Why would Aries cover that?
Yeah, that makes no sense. The way they'd stop at the MOSFET.
Yeah, that's silly because everything else affects the MOSFET. Like, that magnetic chip could come off and just wreck it. So yeah, I think that's kind of silly.
I don't know, and yeah, well, YOLO.
Yeah.
Anybody got anything else on Oppenheimer?
I don't think so.
I think that about covers it.
Against them, it was just this one instance of the post brought out that like they're charging so much for so little, and then had an NDA and forbid anyone from looking at their work or talking about the parts they chose. And their reasoning for it, like for all their decisions, were just so sketchy and weird that like it just kind of popped out to me.
Alright, so I guess that's it for that topic. Then I guess we should move to RetroArms.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have a little bit to talk about with them. So
I haven't heard from RetroArms in literally forever. Next time I talk with
part of what I was going to talk about.
Yeah, the next
lack of communication.
Yeah, next time I talk with Bro, I'm gonna see if he'll send me a RetroArms V6 shell. I'm gonna see if I can give that a shot.
Okay, that version 6, I don't understand.
I don't
Why
either.
don't they have
They don't
the
have anything
top?
on top.
I know.
The top.
Blank.
I know.
The top.
Okay, you know what else they say? You know what else they
It's
say?
just gonna bend. The front part's just gonna bend and crack off.
You know what else they say? Don't
What?
use anything higher than an M150 spring.
What's the point of buying a CNC
What's the point of buying a
gearbox?
CNC gearbox for
hold on.
freaking dollars
Hold
if
on.
you can't use?
I'm on Bro's website. I'm gonna quote you word for word what RetroArms recommends to that.
Oh, that is so.
I'm
I
gonna pop
hate
up
that
in here.
for that. That's dumb.
Okay, here it is. As with all RetroArms products, this gearbox comes with a lifetime warranty and money-back guarantee from Brill Armory. That's from him. Please keep in mind that RetroArms does not recommend springs over M150 to be used with this gearbox, and doing so will void the warranty from RetroArms.
So you're gonna
Hello.
spend $100 for a gearbox that's weaker than the gearbox that comes in the gun.
It's so
That's
dumb.
basically what they're telling you.
I want to message Tom and ask him if it needs radiusing to make it stronger.
I think in that case, radiusing might actually be worse.
Yeah, it would definitely be worse.
I would just like to see what he'd
and
say.
keep in mind here, this isn't like other gearboxes that we've seen where it's like it has some kind of bar to insert right there to keep it together. It's literally just nothing.
Yeah. Oh, so if you guys don't know what we're talking about, if you know what a V6 gearbox looks like, imagine that. If you don't, imagine a V2 gearbox, right? And then the entire area above the entire
Without the top
cylinder is blank. There's just no metal up there at all.
It's
That's what RetroArms did to this V6.
It's literally just a large U shape.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was just no material structurally supporting the part that locks the cylinder head in place and takes all of the force of the piston and the spring. It's just they just took that part out, which is like the dumbest thing you can do.
well, hey, at least the thing is a quick change. That's pretty cool.
But that same horrible
Quick
spring
change
guy.
GNG has that.
I'm gonna quick change an MS210 into it and see what happens.
MS2 kaboom.
It would probably just blow before you fired it.
Like first two shots. Yeah, just putting the spring in would just explode the front.
Just bends it. Bends back. Puts C
Point of
clamp on
making
it.
a super expensive 7075 aluminum CNC gearbox if it's weaker than the pot metal stock one that comes in your gun.
I've
It
never
will
broken a
probably have
V6.
fitment issues because it's RetroArms.
I've never broken a V6, so I mean, this gearbox shell looks retarded to me.
You could break this one.
Yeah, you could break this one. I don't think this is like a retarded stepbrother V6.
Pretty much. Luke and Elliot right now. I want you guys to talk about the SRS. No, we're not going to. Fine, we're going to make our own podcast.
With blackjack
Elliot,
and
what are we going
hookers.
to call our podcast? That's be better than Ryan's.
Nothing's better than this podcast.
That's right.
Nothing. It's so many weird things with that company.
Yeah, okay, and you know how there's somebody put something that said Tom Vu does not work for them anymore.
That's not true.
Okay, well,
Entirely.
it's weird. I don't understand how the business is operating, but they pretty much split to two or three different entities. I don't remember, but there's the factory, the production side, which is called Retro Factory, and then Tom Fu is with the business side, which does wholesale and whatnot. It's called Retro Arms Business, something like that. So yeah, there's a whole big confusion. I suppose. I mean, the whole thing is kind of mess. Well, I talked to Jan, which actually works for Retro Factory. He does. If I remember correctly, he's a designer.
Okay.
Both Daiki, engineer in Japan. Daiki and we both talked to him, telling him the issues with the gearboxes, and he fixed. Let me pull up the website. He fixed for the version 2 at least. Before a lot of people are having issues installing bushings because they're too tight. That's because they did not calculate in the tolerance for anodizing.
Yeah.
So that was the issue. Now
that was a huge issue with other pieces.
I called that.
We all did. But the newest gearbox is supposedly they calculate the anodizing into the tolerances. And
I do have one question for you, Alan, about that. When I was talking to Tom, and I realized Tom was working for the marketing portion of RA, he might not even have been giving me truthful answers. But when I was talking to Tom about the split, when I did my initial review on the split for the company and gave them all new measurements basically for every piece of it to remake it, he said that anodizing, like the process, it took away material. It didn't add material.
He said, was that quote that he said it took away net material?
I think he said it took away net material, and they overcalculated how much it would take away. I'm going to assume because there were a lot of thickness issues in areas that were just simply way too thick, and we all assumed it was because anodizing added a layer of material they didn't account for. But Tom told me anodizing took material away. So what I kind of concluded is that they just tried to overcompensate and put way too much there.
Well,
or
okay.
Tom was wrong.
Put it this way, Tom is not an engineer of any sort.
Oh, I completely realize that.
So, I mean, I'm going to give him the benefit of doubt, just kind of leave it there. But regardless, both Daiki and I have been talking to Jen, for things that need to fix. Now, Jen is sending me, it's actually already on the way. I need to check on the ETA. But he sent me the newest version of the version 2 QSC gearbox. So I will be checking that out and, see if everything's fixed or whatnot. What was another issue? I don't remember.
With
they did some change for the version 2 at least, to the area where the motor grip attached to.
Yep.
So, but I think there's something was lost in the translation from Czech to English. So, I'm just gonna see.
Get it.
Yeah, I'll find out when I get it. So there's that. I also told Jen about the quality control issues for the pistons, because I currently have one of their PA, the polyamide piston, in my SR25 with the MS210, and it's alive. But there are also pistons that fail with M120, where they crack and the rack itself can crack too. So I asked him, hey, is this something they could have messed up during the heat treatment process of the rack? Yeah. So Jen said he'll go check everything out, and just personally speaking, I feel it's a lot. I feel like it's a lot better talking to Jen because I'm talking to the designer directly.
Yeah.
So because someone, I don't remember who said it, but someone somewhere said that Tom did not tell everything to Jen. So I don't know. Whatever.
I guess kind of what you were telling us, not on the podcast as previously, but the whole kind of company design and layout itself didn't seem the most designed or fluid or kind of worked through. So it's not hard to believe that there are breakdowns in communication, especially between the different employers. Or employees actually, but so for example, one of the things I'm still talking to Tom, which we're kind of open with this, is that Tom is still working for RA, and Tom being Tom Vu, the marketing representative that we see in Tech and Q&A more often, but he is now working for the wholesale division of RA. He's no longer the marketing representative of RA, so he's still there, just doing a different job. What that entails, I don't know.
Who does marketing?
I don't know. I don't have a marketing department right now.
Because we haven't seen anyone posting anything.
Because it was Tom, and then they moved Tom to wholesale, and I was talking to Tom about it, and that's all they did. As far as my knowledge goes, they haven't replaced him yet, or they haven't hired anyone new yet.
That's why you haven't gotten your Gearbox show.
You know what's really funny?
Yeah.
I'm holding 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm holding a failed Retron 8-tooth piston for DSG.
What happened to it?
Hey, I've got one of those on the table next to me.
Oh, you only got one. That's cute.
Wow.
That's really
I'm not dumb enough to buy more than one of their products.
Oh, well, I mean, that's
Damn.
It hurts when it comes back to you.
Ouch.
But yeah, I talked to Jen to fix the issues. Also for the gearbox, I noticed a couple of things. On the sector gear to piston distance positioning per se, it's off. So
the vertical, the spacing between the teeth, or it just lines up wrong.
I think it's both the vertical spacing and lateral spacing. So it's just off.
Is it too far or too close on the vertical?
That alone could be the reason why for Friction 2 gearboxes that the grip does not, the motor grip, you need to modify the grip to fit on other bodies. Because if the sector gear is off, that means the bevel, the spur and the bevel are both off, which means the whole lower portion of the gearbox is off. So that was one thing. So yeah, and I talked to because we did end up dropping Retron as distribution because there's just no point,
Way too many problems and issues.
Yeah,
it's a big shame, really.
Yeah, it pretty much ended up as every time when we were buying something from them, it's a huge gamble. I'd rather spend money to buy lottery. I probably made a lot of money back.
I heard Jordan talk about that. He was up 3 weeks ago, real late for me on the East Coast, talking about it, saying how it's just a huge gamble every time to buy from RA because you don't hear back from them sometimes, or something breaks and you just can't get results back, or you can't get feedback back.
Yeah, and so we ended up dropping that. When I talked to Jen, and Jen did not know anything. I just from Tom. He doesn't know anything. But I told Jen that hey, the reason why we dropped Retron for distribution is because all these issues, and we can't get the guarantee that something will work. We just can't. Every time is a gamble. So Jen. He told me he wants to fix things, but I straight up told him that we're not going to spend that kind of money. We'll order maybe 10 gearboxes at a time, just regular wholesale stuff, but we're not going to do any more distribution until we make all the money back, on top of making sure their QC and precision is actually there. Because by the end of the day, we're buying a CNC gearbox. It's CNC. as long as the drawing is right, you put a block of aluminum in, press the button, you hold the block up, secure the aluminum correctly, you press the button, it cuts. It's done. You don't,
It doesn't get more precise than that either.
It kind of throws into question the quality of the build.
There is one issue that I forgot to bring up, that they run their CNC bit at a relatively fast rate, which means every time when the drill bit is physically moving, not a spinning motion, but it's moving on the XYZ axis, it's removing a lot of material.
Right.
And then compared when you do it at a slower rate, you're removing less material, but you're doing it at a more precise fashion. I guess I'll talk to him about that. I'm not sure if any of these significant issues could be fixed by that, but just to see. But they
definitely wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, it just won't hurt. But companies generally do that just to cut down on the production time to save money. So, but yeah, because they cut relatively deep too. Every time with the drill bit, the bit that they use is a combination of drill bit and routing bit. So it cuts both down and sideways, and that bit moves through the block of aluminum relatively fast to the point like I was kind of sketched out. So I'll bring it up to Jen and see what's up.
So yeah, for everybody, RA is a big gamble.
Yeah, I mean, just personally speaking, a lot of people saying like, oh, Richmond's not worth the money, blah blah blah. Personally speaking, if you need a CC gearbox, then you have no other options. In the market that's readily available, and just
unless you want to drop $250 on a cradle.
Well, I mean, cradle is softer, so it's like what. 20,
I mean, at the same time,
it doesn't have any problems though. It actually
yeah.
At
the same time, though, it's if you're how do I put this? Most people don't have builds that would break this.
Okay, like put it this way: if you're doing regular build, buy a low spec gearbox. That's it. If you want to push further away, buy a retro or buy a cradle. However, here's the thing: cradle you won't have issues, but if you're
so
pushing
more for a weaker aluminum,
yeah, and if you're pushing, what is it, 60, 61 or 64?
60, 61.
64, I think.
I heard 60, 61 from
Regardless, the material in comparison to retro is roughly 20 to 30% weaker. And we did create a hairline crack on Cradle gearbox. So Cradle
C61 T6 aluminum bar stock is used for cradles.
60, 61.
So Cradle can still be cracked. So
yes, but only by very, very high stress builds, which 90% of the Tekken community will not even be able to build, let alone want to build.
Alan, wasn't Jordan's gun that broke that like a MS210 full stroke?
It was a combination of 210 and 190.
Because I think it was cut too.
Was he four stroke or was he short stroke? I don't remember.
Well, it was the photo of ASM, and wasn't it full stroke? I thought.
It could be then. I don't remember because
I'm gonna look.
Okay, that's his stubby, and that guy has been through so many different phases. I can't even remember all the parts that he's been through.
You know what? Like the path that I'm just gonna start taking on these stupid things: buy a gearbox shell that fits the parts correctly, and throw an STS on it, and call it a day.
Yeah, I ordered an STS. Well,
care about the strength of the shell anymore at that point.
Before next things, people just start cracking receivers.
Don't buy a shit receiver.
How about just save up the money for the receiver and buy a better gearbox?
Or why don't you just buy a Polar Star?
Because the airlines annoy.
Buy air stock.
The air stock was no air. Yeah. So who has a Polar Star here?
I've
had several of them. I don't know.
All right. You guys are banned from ASM.
I didn't have a Polar Star.
Alan, how many Polar Stars do you own?
0.
You are full of crap.
I seriously don't own any Polar Stars.
Oh, wait,
how many HPA guns do you own?
In the past, like it never passed.
My HPA gun?
I know you've got that freaking Mantis. That's at least one.
Why?
Alright, so
That's
you're no
it.
band.
Just the Mantis.
Still counts.
You can
I
join
said
me
line.
and Jacob in our band.
Just a line.
What? It's a bolt action.
There's a bolt action. There's a line and a tank.
Yeah, it is annoying. That's why most of the time I just use a regular gas mag.
Yeah, you said most of the time though.
Most
that
of the
clearly
time.
means not all of the time.
Well, yeah, the rest of the time is when when people are not calling hits.
It all comes down to that.
0.43s.
I mean, if they don't call hits, then yeah.
0.6 ceramic bearings.
Silica.
Nah. Just the Wii 0.43 is enough. I don't want to put money on 0.66. Just as long as it's enough that they call their hits, I'm happy. My job's achieved.
I need to completely reverting back to the past topic, but one of the things that have been coming with RA is just like they're going through all these changes, I guess, and they weren't the most solid and consistent company to begin with both social aspect and I'm talking more the social aspect, like communication right now, like talking with
years and years ago, I bought a amplifier from a company called Jura Custom.
Yeah,
and that
I know.
company
I know you're going with that.
ended up to be
Which
RetroArm.
today is known as Retro Arms. There was another company in between too.
Guru.
I don't know if it was
like
that
Guru
one.
Airsoft.
That one, because
Yeah.
there's been 3 iterations of a company that is now Retro Arms, and they're all failing for the similar reasons, and they're not fixing those similar reasons.
And
they put 2 and 2 together, but
the other thing I told Jen, the trigger too. You know how you always have to send down the top.
yeah, you have to modify every single trigger they make. 'Cause they're
Even
not
they said, Tom said they use a GMP for measuring the specifications. But even if you put a trigger inside a completely boned out GMP gearbox, it still won't work. You still have to send it down. So
yeah.
I don't know. But I told Jen about the issue. So hopefully Jen will fix those issues. And another thing that Daikin I told him is that they're initially when they first came out, they were known for their gearboxes. They should focus on the gearboxes instead of start making all the tiny stuff.
Yeah, they even like speculated or like started fiddling around in like the gear world, didn't they? Like the version 2.6 gear sets or something like that.
They posted a picture of them and they never went further than that.
Yeah, and
so
like
I'm only assuming that the gears had problems.
right, like they had such bad problems that like they wouldn't rotate or
Who would
something.
have guessed that?
Well,
I mean, as far as I know, you don't make gears the same way as you make CNC gearboxes because you can't make gears out of aluminum.
No.
the thing is to my knowledge, Jen has background in material engineering.
That's better than nothing.
I mean, yeah, it's better than nothing. But just for the record, what's his face? Siege Tech.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Danny.
He goes by
yeah.
Riot, but not his real name.
Yeah, Daniel, whatever name you want to call him.
Yeah.
He actually took a lot of time studying gears just to make Siege Techs. He concentrated on gears, all the teeth, how they work, and blah blah blah, just to make Siege Tech. So if RetroArm is not going to spend all that time studying how gears work,
It's just not going to come out as good.
yeah, and they should just focus on the gearbox instead of making all this small things. And they're known for their gearbox. They're cheap CNC 7075 gearbox. Focus on it. If they fix all the problems they have right now, they will make so much more money, and people will actually know RetroArm as a reputable company. So like right now, their reputation is not that great.
No, that's like the one thing that I really like by them are their selector switches, which are nothing but cosmetic. And even those have an issue of the hole where the spring goes in isn't drilled deep enough because they don't include a spring and ball bearing with it. So you always have to source one. So if you source one that's too long or too short, you will have to modify it.
I just modified mine. I forgot about that thing having issues. It's cool though.
Yeah, because I still had to modify even that, and that's like the one thing that I liked. I have a couple of them.
I got it out of like the little package. I was like, oh, this is really cool. I don't think they can mess this up wrong.
I If they included their own spring and ball bearing to the right size of the hole they cut, it would have been a problem. But because they didn't do that, you have to source your own.
Okay, the spring, just for the record, different companies do come in different lengths.
I know that, and that's what I was saying. Depending on which one you use to source, it will either work or not work with the RA because they didn't include one with theirs.
Well, I mean, you can't just cut a spring. Usually, if you have for example, we use VFC receiver, the one that comes with VFC, the spring, we just cut them in half and it works perfectly.
Yeah, I forget which one I used. I think it was an old Chinese clone company, so you can't really blame RA for the spring. But the spring I used, the diameter was actually slightly too large. The radius of the spring was larger than the radius of the hole, so I had to drill the hole out slightly, and then it worked fine. But I'm like that problem could have been the spring being off spec, but because RA didn't include the spring and ball bearing, and you have to source one, there's no guarantee that that the user or the buyer is gonna pick the one that was compatible with the RA thing that they tested it with, which I would assume would be a GMP. But
I think the mentality that needs to be had when buying from RA needs to be that, okay, I'm buying a $130 gearbox that is decently well priced. Like that's a pretty good cheap price, and then you have to understand that I'm probably gonna have to modify this to work with my other stuff.
Yeah.
You just need to get that mentality when you buy it, instead of buying it and complaining about it on forums like people do all the time. I mean, sure, your complaints have good grounds. They should be on spec, but by
everyone's
now
complaining about it, and you still choose to buy it.
I mean,
right.
I made mine work, but I'm still gonna complain about it.
Well, you see, I deal with pistols, and trust me, Retron gearbox is a lot easier to deal with than pistols.
I figure as much. I've not even touched the gas blowback.
Pistols. I heard it was annoying, and I just spent my time on AEGs and HPA.
It can get quite frustrating.
I'll leave that to you.
Yeah. So anyway, what time is it?
It is midnight for me.
It's 12:10 here on the East Coast.
Oh, okay.
11:09.
Because I kind of have to. I guess I have 5 more minutes.
Okay, well, we'll wrap it up.
I'm going to good gun range, so yeah.
We'll wrap it up.
You're going to the gun range at 9 p.m.
Yeah, they open till 11, if I remember correctly.
Oh, okay, good for you. Are you shooting the 1,000 rounds of 45?
FNX!
Is it SB 199 approved though? That's the question.
Yeah.
That's the
my
question.
picture.
Yes.
It has orange tube, the trigger guard, and the grip has bright neon colored tape.
Well, good. You're not going to get shot now.
45 PCP.
And it's chambering 45.
Well, you're not
so
going to
now
get shot.
everybody knows it's fake.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, because obviously SB199 is going to do anything.
Just because people think these laws through, they don't just pass them to try and support a narrative and gain support.
This is a ghost gun. It fires 30 caliber magazine
Flips in half a second.
In half a second.
That video is so dumb.
I love that video. Whenever I want to be reminded of how retarded the world is, I watch it.
It's like none of these statements are true.
Oh no! I got a better one. So manufacturer make this bullet buttons that allows any standard AR-15 to fire fully automatic.
Oh, yeah. Are you talking about like the
mag release buttons that require you to put a bullet tip or similar into the mag release
California,
so you can't just swap mags quickly and have a higher capacity than 10. Someone tried to convey that as a bullet button, which is basically a mechanical switch where if you push it in, it unlocks fully auto mode for your AR-15.
Oh.
Auto air.
God. I have just a feeling that all the people that believe that are soccer moms.
Oh, I play soccer. Don't try to...
Sorry, Ryan 6.9.
You have a mom?
I'm not saying I disagree, but...
No, Ryan has 2 dads.
Yeah, I don't. I wonder if I did that. It'd be kind of cool.
Some random Asian, not that good looking girl just added me on Facebook.
Ooh, you said you specifically chose to include not that good looking. Like you could have left that out. It didn't change our lives in any way, shape, or form. So I'd ignore it.
Maybe she's Master Tech.
It's just like, who is this? Like, who is this? I don't know. You know what's the best ASM chat moment? Elliot's picture. What are those?
Fruity drink.
I wish I would have made an album for all the ASM crap, but it's all on my phone of like.
You screenshotted a bunch of it.
I'm pretty sure Facebook saves every picture that was ever saved in it.
Right, but I think we've sent so many back and forth that it's really hard for us to view them or something. Let me see.
Let me check.
You can probably go. I wonder how high up you can go in our conversation. Like, can we go all the way back to like?
Oh yeah, no, it'll let you go all the way back to the beginning. I've done that before.
How do you do
I can
that?
go see what you guys talked about before.
You literally just scrolling. Yeah, you literally just keep on scrolling. What is this?
Oh my god.
Oh, it's like 163,193 messages right now.
Oh my god, we talk a lot.
That's not as many as I thought we'd have.
Well, I mean, if you put it this way, that you know who keeps spamming the 3-letter SRS.
That might inflate the message count a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see how far down this lets me go with pictures.
See if you can find the free drink. Oh, I'm trying to figure out what I should name this podcast. Fruity drink.
Specific one?
What?
Free drink.
Fruity drink.
Fruity drink.
Fruity drink and SRS talk.
Yeah. Name it SRS talk. Send it to Luke and Elliot. And then let them do the entire thing waiting for the SRS talk and then have it end.
Never happens.
So guys, SRS.
We did mention SRS.
Because we just mentioned it, so it's in the podcast.
There you go, Luke.
Didn't talk about it the way they wanted us to.
There's no false advertisement.
We're not lying.
Alright, on that note, I do have to bounce.
Alright.
Alright.
Guess we'll wrap it up.
Yep. Well, thank you everybody for joining us in this podcast. I hope you guys had fun listening to it. I had a lot of fun recording it. And I'd like to thank all of our guests. We had a lot this time around, but I enjoyed it. I think we should do it again, actually. I like the 4 people in the podcast.
Some say he still wants to put an SRS optic on his SRS rifle.
Was he posting pictures of that in the chat? Because he was just,
No,
like,
Elliot's calling me out now.
Liars, look at your improvement. You didn't talk about the SRS.
Hold on, wait.
We have a group chat we talk in every day, and one of our friends.
It's kind of secret.
About the new SRS, the silverback sniper rifle, and it's unique because like a normal VSR bolt action where you pull the bolt backwards and the piston locks on the back.
Right? I think we can save that for the next podcast.
Oh no, we are. I'm gonna stop talking about it. I don't want to actually talk about it.
On that bombshell. Good night.